Imagine walking into a restaurant. The host greets you politely, and you respond with a smile. You're shown to your table, and a few minutes later, the waiter comes over to take your order. You notice the person sitting across from you. How do they react? Do they acknowledge the waiter, look them in the eye, maybe say, "Thank you," or do they barely lift their head, speaking as if the person in front of them is invisible? It might seem small, even trivial, but in moments like these, someone's true character quietly steps out from behind the mask they wear for the world. You see, it's easy to be kind to someone who can offer you something: status, approval, opportunity, attention. But how a person treats those who can't do anything for them in return, that's the mirror of their soul. You don't need to read their biography. You don't need to listen to their speeches. You don't need to look at their achievements. Just watch the way they treat those who serve them. Because kindness that expects a reward is not kindness, it's a transaction. And that's not character, that's calculation. Every one of us, at some point, meets people who seem charming when the spotlight is on them. They smile, they flatter, they perform. But when the lights dim and they're dealing with someone who holds no power, a cleaner, a driver, the tone shifts, the smile disappears, their voice hardens, their words shrink. In that instant, you're no longer seeing their public image, you're seeing who they really are. True character isn't displayed in front of an audience. It's revealed in those quiet, unguarded exchanges where the ego doesn't feel the need to impress. Think of the moments when you've witnessed someone picking up something a stranger dropped, offering a seat to an elderly person, thanking the person behind the counter, or listening, truly listening, to someone whose voice is rarely heard. Those gestures may seem small, but they're the real test of decency. Because the truth is, the person who's respectful to everyone, regardless of title or position, carries a kind of nobility that no money or fame can buy. You can't fake respect for long. The tone of your voice, the way your eyes meet another's, the patience in your responses, these things can't be scripted. They come from who you are when no one's watching. That's why if you really want to know a person, don't listen to what they say about their values. Watch how they live them. Observe how they treat the people they don't need. Because character isn't measured by how high someone stands, but by how gently they reach down. It's fascinating how often we underestimate these little interactions. The person who says, "Thank you," to a bus driver, or who tips the server, not out of obligation, but out of appreciation. They're telling you something profound about themselves. They understand that respect isn't hierarchical, it's universal. They recognize the humanity in others, and that recognition reflects the strength of their own. And if you look deeper, you'll notice something else. The people who treat everyone kindly tend to move through life with a quiet confidence. They don't need to prove their worth by belittling others. They don't feel threatened by someone else's simplicity or job title. Their kindness isn't weakness, it's evidence of inner balance, because only those who are secure within themselves can give freely without expecting anything back. On the other hand, arrogance often comes from insecurity. The person who snaps at a waiter or ignores a janitor is usually someone who needs to feel superior, to feel significant. But genuine greatness never demands submission. It inspires respect through humility. Power without empathy is hollow. It can command obedience, but never loyalty. Think about the people who've left a lasting impression on you. Not because of what they owned or achieved, but because of how they made you feel. Maybe it was a teacher who saw potential in you when you doubted yourself. Maybe it was a stranger who offered kindness when you needed it most. Those moments stay with you because they touch something beyond ego. They reach the soul. When I observe someone, I don't look at their clothes, their car, or their job. I look at the way they interact with others. The small nods, the smiles, the patience they show. I listen for sincerity in their voice when they say, "Thank you." Because every word we speak, every gesture we make, either builds someone up or tears them down. And in the end, how we treat others becomes the truest reflection of who we are. So if you want to see someone's true character, don't look at how they treat the important people. Look at how they treat the invisible ones. That's where honesty lives. That's where decency breathes. And that's where the real measure of a human being is quietly waiting to be seen. Because how you treat those who can't benefit you tells the world everything about who you truly are. When everything in life flows smoothly, it's easy to appear calm, kind, and collected. It's easy to smile when you're winning, to stay polite when you're comfortable, to speak softly when everyone agrees with you. But what happens when the world stops working in your favor? When someone disappoints you, when a plan collapses, when the door you counted on slams shut in your face? That's the moment when the mask of composure slips, and your true character quietly steps forward. Adversity doesn't create who you are, it reveals who you've always been. Anyone can appear gracious when life is sweet, but pressure exposes the cracks in the foundation. Watch how a person reacts when something doesn't go their way. When they are criticized, when they're misunderstood, when life refuses to bow to their plans. Do they turn bitter, lash out, blame others? Or do they pause, breathe, and choose to respond with patience and strength? That moment of choice is where integrity either breaks or blooms. I've seen people who, under stress, transform into something unrecognizable. Their tone hardens, their empathy fades, and their words cut deep. The frustration blinds them, and suddenly every minor inconvenience becomes an attack. Yet I've also seen others who, in the same storm, remain steady. They take a deep breath and respond with understanding. They don't let the chaos around them dictate the peace within them. Those are the people you can trust, because when the world shakes, they don't lose their ground. We often talk about success as a measure of character, but in truth, failure is a far more honest judge. Success hides flaws under applause. Failure strips away everything but truth. When you lose, when you're rejected, when the path you planned burns to ashes, your reaction tells the real story. Do you quit? Do you curse fate? Or do you stand up again, even when no one's watching, even when no one believes? That moment defines you more than any victory ever could. There's something profoundly human about how we handle disappointment. We all face moments where our patience is tested. A relationship breaks, a business fails, a promise is broken. And in that space between the hurt and the reaction, we reveal what we value most. Some people choose anger because it's easy. Anger gives the illusion of control. But those who choose grace, those who choose reflection, show a rare kind of strength. The kind that doesn't need to win every battle to stay whole. Think about the people who stay kind even when others aren't. The ones who don't let bitterness make them smaller. They understand that life isn't supposed to obey them. They understand that disappointment isn't punishment, it's a teacher. These people don't just survive hardship, they grow through it. They don't let adversity harden their heart, they let it deepen their understanding. That's real maturity. That's the quiet power of resilience. When things fall apart, it's natural to feel pain, anger, confusion. But character is about what you do with those emotions. Do you let them control you, or do you learn to master them? The person who can remain composed when everything is falling apart, who can speak with kindness while hurting, who can choose integrity even when tempted to abandon it. That person has built something unshakable within themselves. We live in a world that celebrates strength, but often misunderstands it. Strength isn't shouting louder, it's staying gentle when you could break something. It's forgiving when you have every reason not to. It's admitting you're hurt, but refusing to let that hurt turn into hate. Life will always test you through betrayal, loss, unfairness. You can't control those tests, but you can control your response. That's where your power lies. I've always believed that true strength is revealed in silence, not the silence of surrender, but the silence of understanding, when you don't rush to react, when you take time to listen, to feel, to think before responding. You begin to rise above the chaos instead of drowning in it. That calm isn't weakness, it's mastery. It's the sign of someone who's learned that life's storms are not here to destroy them, but to reveal the depth of their roots. And when you observe people closely, you start to notice patterns. Those who crumble at the first sign of trouble often spend their lives reacting to the world instead of shaping it. But those who remain steady, who keep their dignity in defeat, who learn instead of complain, those are the people who go the farthest, because every setback teaches them something about who they are and who they still need to become. It's easy to claim patience, compassion, or wisdom when life is kind. The real proof appears when the pressure is unbearable. Do you keep your word even when it hurts? Do you stay kind when kindness isn't returned? Do you keep faith when everything tells you to give up? That's where character lives, not in the calm waters, but in the storm's heart. So if you truly want to see someone's true character, don't look at how they behave when everything's working. Watch how they act when life denies them what they want. Watch their tone, their eyes, their choices. Because the way someone reacts when things don't go their way, that's the clearest reflection of their soul. Because how a person responds in adversity shows you not who they pretend to be, but who they truly are. In the end, everything fades. The titles, the applause, the followers, the shine, they all lose their meaning with time. What stays, what truly endures, is character, because character outlasts everything. It's the one thing that can't be taken, bought, or borrowed. It's who you are when the lights go out, when no one is clapping, when you stand alone and the only voice you hear is your own. That's where the truth of a person lies. We live in a world obsessed with appearances, with how people look, what they own, what they post, how they're perceived. But all of that is surface. It's paint on the walls of a house whose foundation may be crumbling. True worth doesn't come from the image others see, it comes from the integrity that no one sees. And yet, most of us spend our lives polishing the image instead of building the soul. We chase approval because it feels like validation, but it's only ever temporary. When the world stops watching, you're left with yourself, and that's when you find out if the person you've built inside can stand the silence. Character is quiet. It doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't need to. It speaks through action, through consistency, through the way you live your truth, even when it's inconvenient. It's in the promises you keep, the honesty you hold, the compassion you show. These aren't glamorous things. They don't make headlines, but they're the foundation of everything meaningful. Without character, success is fragile. Without integrity, influence is hollow. Without honesty, relationships are just performances. I've met people who had everything, wealth, power, and yet there was something missing. A restlessness in their eyes, a heaviness in their voice. They had built empires, but lost themselves along the way. And I've met others who had very little, but carried a kind of peace that can't be bought. Their kindness was steady, their words sincere, their presence grounding. You could feel that their worth came from within, not from what the world gave them. That's the difference character makes. It gives you an anchor when life tries to pull you away from yourself. When you build your character, you're building something eternal. It's the invisible part of you that shapes every visible part of your life. It's what makes you trustworthy when no one is watching, what makes you reliable when no one is praising you. It's what allows you to walk through failure without losing dignity, and through success without losing humility. And yet, we rarely talk about it because character isn't glamorous. It's slow work. It's built in small moments. The decision to tell the truth when lying would be easier. The choice to forgive when revenge feels justified. The act of standing up for what's right, even when you stand alone. Every challenge in your life, every difficult person, every setback, they're not punishments. They're invitations to grow your character. Life doesn't test you to break you, it tests you to reveal you. You can't develop integrity in comfort. You can't build patience without waiting. You can't learn compassion without pain. That's the paradox. The very things we wish would go away are often the things that build the best in us. When you meet someone with true character, you feel it before you see it. There's a calm about them, a sense of steadiness that doesn't depend on circumstances. They're not chasing approval because they already know who they are. They don't need to prove their worth because their worth doesn't depend on applause. They may not be loud, but their presence speaks louder than words. That's the quiet strength of character. It doesn't demand respect. It earns it without trying. The truth is, Your reputation is what people think of you, but your character is what you think of yourself. Reputation can be built overnight. Character takes a lifetime. Reputation is your shadow. Character is your substance. When the world misunderstands you, character keeps you grounded. When it praises you, character keeps you humble. It's the compass that points you back to yourself when everything else pulls you away. And maybe that's the greatest responsibility we have, to protect and refine our character no matter where life takes us. Because in the end, you can lose money, status, even relationships. But if you lose your character, you lose the part of yourself that gives meaning to everything else. It's what defines you when everything external disappears. So build a life that's rich not in possessions, but in principles. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your values, not your victories. Choose honesty even when it costs you. Be kind even when no one notices. Be fair even when it's inconvenient. These are the quiet acts that build a legacy no storm can wash away. Because someday the world will forget the numbers, the awards, the titles. But it will remember how you made people feel, how you stood in truth, how you stayed human when life tested you. That's what lasts. That's what matters. Because in the end, everything fades, but character is what remains when all else is gone.